when I realized I was codependent and I started doing the research, that's when I knew I had to write a book about codependency. Thank my experience with him for teaching me what I needed to learn, which is ultimately to let go. So today, we're going to be talking about narcissists and the need to one-up others in relationships. If you love this content, don't forget to click the subscribe button and the notification bell. This way, every time I upload a new video, you'll be the first to know. So when we're talking about narcissism, we're talking about a pervasive pattern. We're talking about someone that you know that needs to one-up you, perhaps. This will be a trait that you notice over time. A narcissist is someone who is empathy impaired. So they don't care to read a room. They don't care what other people think about them generally, unless, of course, they're trying to garner a source of narcissistic supply from them. That's what a narcissist cares most about. So a narcissist, in my view, is addicted to what's happening in the 3D matrix. So a narcissist needs attention, adoration, and sometimes just a reaction from you in order to sustain a sense of control, in order to emotionally regulate, which is a sad state when you really get to the nitty-gritty of it, because they lack so much self-awareness around why they do what they do. And I think what is worse is that they often don't care. So when you corner a narcissist and say, hey, that hurts, they generally just don't care. This inability to care about or read a room, to care about how their arrogance is impacting members of their family, or how their lying is hurting their children, or how their lack of just common decency towards other people that they know is really beginning to debilitate the other people that the narcissist knows. Narcissists will engage in blame shifting. So there is a lack of accountability. You try to get a narcissist to hold themselves accountable for the way that they're behaving, and they buck like a bronco. And they will turn the tables on you, and they will scramble your brain like mashed potatoes to get you to assume guilt and blame. So people-pleasing can be rather difficult to process, in the sense that when you start to really look at yourself, if you're struggling with codependent symptoms and this disease to please is something that you've battled and struggled with, when you get to the bottom of it, which is the whole goal, is to look within, right? Unlike what a narcissist does, a narcissist externalizes. When you are healing from codependency or some type of a character trait that you deem is unacceptable in yourself, that's a beautiful thing. That means that you have the awareness of self, you recognize how your character traits are impacting other people, so you're having empathy for others. You want to be genuinely liked by other people, and you want to genuinely connect with other people, which is a beautiful thing. But when we're talking about shades of narcissism, there's this sense that they just don't care about authentically connecting to other people. It's how they feel in the moment, and if they feel like being rude, they'll be rude. And if they feel like being condescending, they'll be condescending. If they feel like stirring the pot, they'll stir the pot. If they are angry, and they will blame you for why they're angry. They will persecute you and then rationalize and justify why they've persecuted you. And you end up, if you're a true people pleaser and you're struggling with codependency, you may end up feeling extremely confused and like it was your fault that this person was so angry and irritated. On the healing path, what we're looking to do is we're trying to move to a state of non-resistance. We don't want to be so upset and have so many restraints in our own life that it's easy to annoy us, right? The less expectations, I know this is going to sound hippy-dippy, but the less expectations that you have of other people, the less annoyed you are. Now, that doesn't mean that you lower your standards for friendships or partners. It just means that you read your partner, you read your friends, and you do not look at people with rose-colored glasses on, which is how children approach the world. Children trust everyone. They're not critical thinkers. They don't know how to process people's energies. They just trust. And that's why children are so innocent, and they are so often abused by people who are malevolent, people who are highly toxic, narcissistic, and sadly abusive. And so when we're coming at relationships, we don't want to lower our standards. We want to have standards. We want to make peace with our desires and our standards. And then we want to go out into the world and know that we have a right to have these ideas about what we want to experience. And rather than try to change someone, like so many people do in narcissistic relationships, they try to change their partner. They try to get their husband or their wife to stop drinking or stop smoking weed, stop playing video games, stop using all these distracting modalities and connect with me. They try to change this person. And often when you're dealing with the narcissist doesn't want to change. The narcissist thinks you should just hang around. The narcissist isn't listening to you. The narcissist isn't caring how their behavior is impacting you. You can beg a narcissist to go into therapy. They don't go. Or if they do go, they go to acquiesce to you temporarily, to convince you that, see, yeah, I care. But their intention isn't pure. And so a narcissist will want to go into therapy and one-up you in therapy, embarrass you in therapy. And so when I say lower your expectations, what I'm saying is accept people for who they are and decide whether or not you want them to be in your life, and to make that decision unapologetically. This is the way you get to create the life that you desire. Many of us struggle with this idea that we have a right to ask for what we desire, and yet a narcissist is out there taking what they want without reservation, stepping on the heads of other people, lying to people. Their arrogance is off the charts. They don't care about reading a room. They don't care about social norms. They don't care about a we mentality. This is me. If I have a vulgar mouth, I have a vulgar mouth. Deal with it. If I like to fabricate stories, deal with it. If I'm 20 minutes to 2 hours late, deal with it. If I decide to leave and I don't tell anybody where I'm going, deal with it. You're left with this feeling of exasperation, like, what's up with this chick? Or what's up with this guy? If I don't want to call you and tell you I'm coming to a wedding, then I don't call you. If I show up, I show up. Deal with it. So that's generally the type of personality that we're dealing with when we're considering someone who has high narcissistic traits. And the more we decide whether or not we want to deal with this person in our life, and the better we get at setting boundaries, the less we become affected by people who have very little consideration for how their behavior affects other people. So when we're dealing with one-upmanship, oftentimes we're dealing with people who just don't get it. They think that when they're sharing a story, after you tell your story, or they cut you off, they're really not very good at, like I said earlier, reading a room, but their intentions are good. They might lack self-awareness. They might think, oh, you're telling a story and I'm telling a story and we're sharing. And I think that's kind of benign, but there's a certain type of a person who is quizzing you. There's a certain type of a person who is sizing you up. There's a certain type of a personality that sees you as a stepping stool. If you think about a stepping stool, what do you use it for? You step on it. And what does a stepping stool do? It raises you above others. You get a better vantage point. You can feel more secure, more in control when you use a stepping stool, because that's where you gain more clarity, so to speak, or you gain a different perception. It aids you in some way. So when you're thinking about a stepping stool, think about someone who doesn't want to see eye to eye with you. Think about someone who wants to look down at you. So this person, in terms of gaining clarity, they're gaining clarity about how they can manipulate you moving forward. The more that they know about you, the more that they can compete with you. So what kind of formula do you feed your baby? How many times do you take your baby to the gym? How many times do you take the baby to the park? How often do you go to mommy and me classes? These are the ways that a young mom, a narcissistic mom, might quiz another mom so that she can feel better about herself. Think about a man in a situation talking to one of his friends who's narcissistic. How much money do you make? How many raises have you gotten? How many friends do you have? How many times have you gotten laid? Right? Think about it. How many women have you been with? Have you been with her yet? Think about an office situation where there's locker room talk and there's a narcissistic man who's quizzing the other men in the office experience to try to figure out, try to get the lay of the land, so to speak. Try to figure out where these men's jumping off place is. Why? So he can climb that step stool and get a greater vantage point. The more a narcissist knows about you personally, the more they're able to, at least in their head, create a jumping off place and find ways to one-up you. So you backpack through Europe at 21, they backpack through Europe at 17. You were in jail once, they were in jail 3 times. So when we're thinking about people who need to one-up, we have to understand that it goes both ways. So if you have a sad story, they have a sadder story. If you're sick, they're sicker. If you are depressed, they're more depressed. If you had a problem with your family as a child, they had more problems than your family as a child. If you reinvented yourself after your first divorce, then they'll come up with some story about how they were able to reinvent themselves at 16. When we're dealing with people who are one-upping, a lot of problems arise, but a major problem is you really can't trust what they're saying. And when you're dealing with someone who is one-upping you for malicious intent, who is trying to make you feel bad about yourself, versus someone who is not very well, does not read a room well, might be socially awkward, and is just trying to find a way to connect. There are people out there that they don't realize that they've interrupted your story. They don't realize that they've completed your sentence. And I know I'm guilty of this, and I don't like it about myself. And I constantly tell myself, like, be aware, be aware, be aware. Because there is this desire to connect with other people, right? And when you tell a story and then I tell you my story, the thinking is that we have something in common. But when we're talking about people with high narcissistic traits, they lack this awareness that this person just told you a story, they have a sentiment that they'd like to share, and they would like you to actively listen and process it, chew on it, and share your ideas about their ideas. When we lack self-awareness, sometimes we share our story wanting to connect with this other person, but we're not always aware that we didn't hear what this person said. And I think this is something that many people struggle with. And if this resonates with you, maybe you can become a better listener by recognizing this trait in yourself. But here's the difference. If you're somebody who can recognize a trait in yourself that you don't like, that is a detriment to your relationships, is an aspect of your personality that even makes the people that you love feel unheard, and you have remorse about that, and then you work to make sure that you don't do that anymore, that's a beautiful thing. That shows that you have the ability to take accountability for yourself. It shows a sense of self-responsibility. It represents self-awareness. It represents the ability to evolve your consciousness. If this hits you, if this resonates with you, and you think, oh, I do that, well, this is a great opportunity for you to level up your consciousness. Be careful, because if you're somebody who is still carrying around shame, Hearing this about yourself can trigger shame. And what we want to do is we want to learn to process shame. We want to learn to sit with the shame, let it come up, let it filter. Don't push it away, just let it filter. Wow, I'm experiencing some shame, recognizing that I cut people off, that I finish other people's sentences, that when someone tells me about a surgery that they've had, sometimes I share about the surgery that I've had or someone I know has had. And now I'm realizing that in this situation, the other person might be feeling unheard. And I really don't like that the person that I care about and that I love can feel unheard when I behave this way. So empathy means that you have the ability to understand how your actions, your words, your beliefs, your notions and whatnot, even your inactions, impact other people. And you can hold a space and recognize that, wow, when I behave this way, this is the experience the other person most likely had. I don't like that this person feels this way, and I was the cause of it. And I'm going to work at making sure that the person that I care about and that I love feels heard. So you've leveled up your consciousness. None of us come here perfect. We all come here to evolve and to, in my opinion, the long and the short of it is I have to find my way to love, kindness, and compassion. When I'm holding on to hate and anger and frustration and all of these negative emotions, I'm not evolving my consciousness. And I know that that can be really difficult for people to hear who have been so terribly and horrifically treated by someone with high narcissistic traits. I get it. And I've said this in the past, and this is really how I feel. There are some people out there that need to hold on to that anger in order to feel safe. And without that anger, they won't feel safe. So I get that. However, I still believe that to evolve and to find peace in our bodies and to even heal on deep levels, we really all should be trying to move towards love, compassion, and kindness. If you're interested in what you can do to achieve that, and if you're ready for it, one of the things that you can do is sit on the floor, go into a meditation, take a couple of deep breaths, quiet your mind, and then when you're ready, ask yourself, ask your inner eye to please bring forward someone that you're upset with. And then say to yourself, at least just pretend to forgive them. Pretend to have compassion for them. Pretend to want to let this thing go. Just pretend. I am willing to pretend that I forgive you. I am willing to pretend that I wish you well. I am willing to pretend that I wish you ease. I am willing to pretend that I wish you joy. And I can almost guarantee you that if you try this, you're going to begin to feel a shift. This was huge for me when I was able to transition into this space of wanting to experience more love, more kindness, more joy, and compassion in my life. And so I would get in the habit of pulling people into the forefront of my mind and forgiving them. In the beginning, I had to pretend to forgive them. You know, it's hokey pokey, I know, it sounds hippy dippy, but it works. And I've heard other spiritual teachers talk about this type of a practice as well. So there's something to it. And if you're willing, remember, you have to be at a place where you're willing and you're able. You might be at a place where you're just not ready to do that, and that's okay. But just keep it in the back of your mind. Keep it as a spiritual tool to use either in the near future or maybe later, maybe a year from now or 2 years from now. Because when we flow with the natural stream of life, which is love, which is abundance, our body heals in magnificent and what seems like miraculous ways, but I believe is very natural. I believe that we're all supposed to come here and flow with the stream of love and abundance. But when you get caught in a narcissistic relationship, they are in neutral and reverse. Like they are stalled mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. Although their ego will tell them that they've got it all going on. You know, and that's why one of the things that I find so mind-bending is when you're talking to someone with high narcissistic traits, they are 100% convinced that they're right and you're wrong. And you might be a little wobbly because you're looking to come into the experience with someone with high narcissistic traits to understand. So you're willing to be wrong. You're willing to change. But when you're dealing with a narcissist, they're like a steel rod. Like, no, this is my reality, and if you don't like it, shove off, and, oh, you're annoyed by my attitude? Too bad. So there's no acknowledgement that they have an attitude. There's no acknowledgement that they are being rude. There's no acknowledgement that they did lie, right? They just lie on top of another lie. And so when you're dealing with someone who one-ups you and you are stuck in this maze, let's say it's someone that you love and you've tried to set boundaries with this person, but they just don't listen. They just don't care. That's very troubling. This could be your spouse. It could be your mother. It could be your husband. It could be your wife. Someone who you notice, no matter what happens in your life, this person must one-up you. And their intent is not good. I've seen situations in which spouses were really, really sick, legitimately sick, like cancer sick, and the more narcissistic partner is suddenly going for an elective surgery. And so now all eyes are on the person who is now having elective surgery. It wasn't a necessary surgery, but wifey poo is getting a little bit too much attention for her diagnosis. I've got to balance the scales. That's something entirely different. This is somebody who is jealous and envious and addicted to attention. This is someone who needs and craves your sympathy. They want your pity. This is someone who walks into a room and their eyes are huge, and the prize is your eye contact. You give them eye contact, you ask them, hey, how are you? That's it. It's all over. They're talking about this terrible car accident that they were in 20 years ago, and how their ankle is screwed up, and how they have migraine headaches. I mean, grandma just recovered from a stroke, right? And grandma needs some special attention, and they're grabbing your arm and they're bringing you into the bathroom and they're trying to tell you how bad their life is, right? Why? Because grandma is the one that everyone's worried about. And so this is someone who lacks empathy for grandma. This is someone who lacks empathy for you. This is someone who is in competition with other people who are sick. This is someone who cares less about you as a person and just sees you as a source of narcissistic supply. Think about people with Munchausen. These are people who are feeding off of the attention of other people. People who fake cancer. People who fake the illnesses of their children. And they have cancer walks, right? And they get all this glory. They've got a dedicated Instagram feed, right, to this issue with their child, which is really an imagined issue or an exaggerated issue. It happens. And when we're thinking about people who have high narcissistic traits, who use you this way, you have to understand there's an inability to see you as a 3D autonomous human being. There's something really off in this situation. And my suggestion is, don't try to battle it. My suggestion is become aware of it, set boundaries, don't give this person the attention that they need, and pray that whoever loves them, wakes up too, because this type of a personality will use their children, right? They will use their children as stepping stones. Their children will become a slave to this person who uses one-upmanship to dominate and control and manipulate other people. And so you can only hope that the people in his or her family are able to see this dynamic, and you have to be sure that you don't get swallowed up in it. It would be really nice if the reality was that people didn't lie like this. We know that most people lie, but they're lying about, hey, how are you? Oh, I'm great. They're not great. They're lying about, how much do you weigh? And people shave off a couple of pounds. Or how old are you? They shave off a couple of years. Or they exaggerate. We know that everybody lies, right? I've read studies where they say, as soon as a child learns to talk, they're lying. So it's natural to avoid certain painful stimuli or perceived painful stimuli. But when this goes awry, and when it crosses this line where someone is using lying to manipulate, dominate, and control the empathy, which is essentially energy, of other people, we're talking about an entirely different thing. When we're talking about people who can be socially awkward and who lack a little sense of self-awareness, and they're contributing to conversations, and other people are perceiving them as one-upping, and they don't see it in themselves, and it's innocent, they think that they're trying to bond with the group, that's something innocuous, that's something benign. But the reality is that there are people in this world who take this empathy gene and exploit it in other people. They know that you have empathy, and so they lie, they exaggerate. When it comes to wanting to one-up you in something negative, right? So you talk about your depression, you talk about losing your cat, right? They start talking about the fact that they love this dog and this dog was everything to them and their world completely imploded, and you start looking at them like, wow, right? So now they're off. Now there's this awkward silence too. You'll notice that when people do this, there is this like, everybody starts to shut down a little bit because they realize what just happened. Someone with high narcissistic traits doesn't care that that happens. They want your attention, and they also want to step on you and step on your story so that they can get all the coins. If you think about energy as a commodity, that's their goal. They want to be the rich man. They want to be the rich woman. They want you depleted. They don't want anyone to pay any attention to you. They're in it for the attention. They're in it for the gain. They're in it to make you feel less than in lots of cases as well. So we can have someone with high narcissistic traits one-up people from the negative, right? So you had someone pass away during COVID. They had 2 people pass away during COVID. So we get this idea. We get this idea that when it comes to someone with high narcissistic traits and they're trying to one-up you, it's to make you feel less than. It's to minimize your experience. It's to garner your attention. It could be to make you feel less than. All of this is swirled up in this experience. If you're talking about someone with high narcissistic traits in a group setting, you know, this is someone who comes off like they're bragging, but they don't care. This is someone who is exaggerating what they've done in their life, but they don't care. This is someone who makes the group yawn. Sometimes your skin will crawl like, I can't believe she said that, or I can't believe he said that. Can you believe he treated her that way? Can you believe he came in and he started lying about who he slept with in the office, right? And just as Charlie was sharing his story about a breakup, he came in, he started bragging about a breakup that he had, and he went right into dating another girl from the office. Like, he just swooped in like a hawk and like, boom, stole the stage, right? Other people will cringe, but the narcissist doesn't care because they live in a fantasy. They have cognitive distortions. They're telling themselves that people like it when they tell them stories about their physical conquests. Could be true, could be not true. It doesn't matter. It is this one-upmanship that you will notice, right? So that's really important that people recognize this type of a trait, either in yourself or in ourselves or in other people. Because as we become aware of these dynamics, it is only through the ability to become aware of particular dynamics in ourselves and in other people that we have the ability to change them. So I think it's worth speaking about. I think it's worth acknowledging that we recognize these personality traits. If we see these traits in our children, we can help our children change them, gently making them aware that you don't have to lie, you don't have to pretend, you don't have to fabricate, you can just be yourself. And if the child is struggling with being themselves, well, probably spend less time on social media and more time cultivating their own skills, their own joys, and their own bliss. And then eventually moving children into situations where they're around children who enjoy what they enjoy. So we're teaching our children to find their inner bliss and to bring it out into the 3D world and to attract their vibe tribe. Social media is a very dangerous place because it's a place where we're constantly comparing ourselves to other people, which makes us feel less than. And we all have this tribal instinct where we want to get along and we want to feel like we belong to a particular tribe. And with what we see in social media, the bar is consistently being raised. So a child with low self-esteem thinks, well, that child looks happy. And yet we know that on social media, so many people are putting out realities that don't even exist with filters and stories just to gain followers. Again, even Instagram followers or even YouTube followers, it could be about one-upping. And I think in that situation, if you're a creator of content, if you are using social media, and I say this to my clients all the time, is what is your intention, right? So if your intention is to be better, that's fine, as long as it is not coming from a narcissistic place. You want to be better than that person. You want to be the best that you can be. But let's face it, we all know people that only care about subscribe accounts or only care about follower accounts or likes on a Facebook page. And so we all have to be really careful about why we share what we share, because our children are watching. Our children are watching. And so if it's really important to mommy and daddy that they get validation outside themselves through social media, you have to know that your babies are watching. And now they're going to value something in the 3D world, perhaps more than they value what comes from within. And so when we're talking about one-upmanship and we're talking about something that's more malignant, we're talking about people who one-up you for the sake of making you feel less than. We're talking about people who lie in order to make you feel less than. We're talking about people who fabricate stories in order to make themselves look better compared to you. So this could be coming from a place of envy. This could be coming from a place of low self-esteem. This could be coming from a purely narcissistic space, a space of arrogance, a space of absolutely zero or little empathy for other people. If humanity is going to survive, we all have to be nice to one another. We all have to be kind to one another. We have to see other people as essentially reflections of ourselves. And when we're looking at our brothers and sisters in the world, we have to recognize that all of us have the potential to be highly narcissistic if we had the exact same experience that someone that we know who is narcissistic had. Same parents, same genes, same environment, same everything, then we would be that person. So we all come here with the same needs. We're all 99.999% the same. There's very little that separates us. And, you know, I dare to say that we're all rather figments of one another's imagination, because we're all in 99.999% space. What makes us matter is very little. And so the more that I focus on someone outside of me, the more that person will matter and literally take on physical matter in the quantum world. That's why there's so much power in going no contact. That's why there's so much power in the gray rock method. And that's why there's so much power in shutty shutty. I use the phrase shutty shutty to explain the ability that we have to literally shut a narcissist out of our lives energetically, mentally, and emotionally, even if we've yet to move them out of our life physically. And it was in my experience, and it was an amazing experience, I proved it for myself, that the more I shutty shutty, the more I shut my phone to a narcissist, the more I deleted text messages from a narcissist, the more I hung up the phone if a narcissist actually got through to my number with a fake number, the more I just shut the narcissist down. Literally, I would shut up around my narcissistic ex and continually starved him of the energy and the reactions his arrogant self created and wanted. And yes, when we're dealing with narcissism, we're dealing with a certain level of arrogance. And I think that that's a gift when someone is highly arrogant, because it's so easy to spot. It's like, oh, okay, this person doesn't care. oh, okay, this woman is flirting with my husband. She's arrogant. Like, who does she think she is? Like, oh, this woman's bragging about all the men that she slept with or all the husbands that she slept with. Oh, okay. Oh, okay. She's trying to one up the rest of the women in the room. Oh, she's bending over, trying to gain the attention of my husband. Oh, women can one up one another that way also, right? So you go to a party and this goal of a female narcissist is to one up. So she calls you and she says, what are you wearing? So you send her a picture of what you're wearing and she either goes out and buys the same dress or she does it up. She wears something similar, but she does it up. And so this is really this idea that we're talking about, this one-upmanship personality trait in people who are highly narcissistic. And so what do you do? What do you do if your sister is a narcissist and she's competing with you, right? So you have one Santa Claus on your lawn and she gets Santa Claus and the reindeers, right? And you live around the corner from each other and you're bragging about your Christmas decorations and your sister's in the room and she says, oh, well, I not only have a Santa Claus, but I also have the reindeer. I mean, something so stupid, but my gosh, can that get under your skin? Especially if this is someone that you love and you see on a consistent basis. So what do you want to do? So I'm big on just getting quiet, hit the pause button, right? Shutty, shutty. Just digest what's happening. Get out of the roll of it. Get out of the flow of it. Just pull yourself out of the stream of this situation that you're in, this agreement that you have with the narcissist and yourself. There's an agreement. There's a covenant. She is the one that is better than you. And if you stay in that competitive groove with her, then this continues. So if you think about her and if you draw her to your mind consistently and you're frustrated and you're angry, the greater matter she takes in the space of your brain and in your vibrational cells. You make her matter because you're so aggravated. And when we're aggravated at people, we think about them. We imagine what we should have said. We imagine what we could have said. And we don't realize that through the ethers, we are bringing this person into our internal experience, our non-physical experience. Now, I think we really need to look at that because we are more space than we are matter. We are more non-physical beings than we are physical beings. And our brains and our egos will tell us that, no, I'm physical. I am absolutely physical. Yes, you're physical, but you exist in a space, a time-space reality where things have been slowed down. So in a different dimension where things are sped up, we might appear ghost-like. We might appear like as shadows in a different dimension. So you are more non-physical. So you have to understand that the more time and energy you give to a narcissist, this is non-physical energy. The more matter they become and the more they matter. And that's why tools like shutty shutty, going no contact, and gray rocking are so significant because we're shutting them out mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. So if you have someone like this in your life, the first thing that you want to do is just get quiet. Hit the pause button and then think about what's really going on. Think about this person in the office who is engaging other people. What is this person doing? This person is trying to create a pattern, an experience, a perception, and a relationship. This person is trying to create a step stool out of the other people in the office. Now, as long as you don't engage, that person can't create a step stool out of you. And before long, there might be a little bit of a smear campaign. They might be putting you down because you're not giving them attention. What's up with her? She thinks she's better than everybody. I've been accused of that. Just by not wanting to engage in particular activities, I was accused of thinking I was better than everyone else. And that wasn't the case at all. I knew a group of people that were into some things and I wasn't, and I just decided to remove myself from those situations. It wasn't that I thought I was better than them, but that's the story the narcissist, there were many narcissists in that group, but that's the story the narcissist had to project upon me. And so when we're understanding, when we're looking at things and we understand that people are full of conflicts, and what a narcissist is trying to do is resolve a conflict when they are engaging you. And the conflict, very often, studies have suggested that narcissists have tremendous low self-esteem, and how they resolve the conflict is through the 3D experience with other people. And so you become a puppet in their play. And so when you're reflecting back, oh my God, I can't believe you had another surgery, they feel important. When you're ignoring grandma who had a stroke, you are helping them really solidify the false narrative in their head that they really are sicker than grandma, and they really do deserve more attention than grandma, right? And so when we engage with people like this, we are actually helping to prop up their false image. So this is their conflict. They don't feel important, they don't feel significant, and they find various ways to compensate for this insignificance within them, which could be absolutely devastating and imploding if they ever touched it, right? People who are not highly narcissistic, who are flawed just like everybody else, and they're stumbling along in life, they have to eat humble pie. They have someone who says, hey, knock it off. I don't like the way that you act. I don't like the way that you behave. I don't think it's fair that you speak this way. I don't think it's fair that you don't let people know where you're at. You were invited to dinner. You didn't even call. Those of us who are lucky enough to have a really honest friend who will say, hey, that was very unbecoming of you. And I just want you to know, because I care about you, that gives us an opportunity to correct our behavior. If you're somebody who trusts this person and you have high emotional intelligence, then you will see the value in correcting that behavior so that you can be part of a community, so that you can create authentic bonds with other people. You care about these other people. When we're dealing with a narcissist, it's very flat. It's always going to be about the narcissist, and they won't care, right? They'll just be on to the next source of narcissistic supply. And if it's not you, they will make it about you. They will try to put you down. They will try to mar your reputation. They have to create a story as to why you're not agreeing to this storyline that they have in their head. Why are you not mirroring back my greatness? Why are you not giving me attention? Why are you not admiring me? Why are you not praising me? Why are you not buying me donuts and coffee? Why are you not putting me up in your house? Everyone else feels sorry for me. Why are you not paying my bills? And narcissists do this. Narcissists create stories. They want you to feel sorry for them. Why? So that you take care of them. And in this way, it's one-upping you. So we're looking for these people in our world so that we don't get sucked in with them, so that we don't become sort of like vampires' victims, because people like this are energy vampires for sure. And if you're not careful, you could end up being the caretaker of this person. You could be someone who is figuring out their life, paying their bills, taking care of their children. You could be someone who feels really bad whenever you're around this person. If you're a sibling, you can go into competing with the sibling for attention. You could be really angry and frustrated and not even want to go to family dinners because you've got a sibling that's constantly one-upping you, and mom and dad are praising this golden child, and you just feel completely on the outs because of the one-upmanship. You want to make sure that you hit the pause button, you recognize what you're dealing with, and you refuse to go down the rabbit hole with this person. So see these people as people who are looking to create covenants and agreements with other people, and just refuse to take the bait. So you want to make sure that you're not taking this type of behavior personally. This person, if you were out of their experience, would find someone else to do this with. And sometimes that helps you to extricate yourself from the relationship. It will help you to disengage. Remember not to compete with the sibling or the spouse or the coworker or the friend that you know. Don't get into a pissing contest with this person. Let them have their reality and just leave it there. Don't pick up the torch, just let it stay there. On the other hand, if this is someone that you care about and you think that they're just not reading the room well enough, it might be something that you want to mention for their sake and as well as your sake. When you recognize the one-uppers in your life, this is an opportunity for you to disengage and for you to find people who are more in alignment with your vibe. This is also an opportunity for you to learn how to build better boundaries. And if you're interested in learning more about how you can build better boundaries, I've created a 60-page workbook that also comes along with an MP3 that you can download today at my website at www.lisaaromano.com. Hey, if you love this content, don't forget to check out the next video, and you can go to my website and take the codependency quiz.